Good afternoon. My name is Shannon Ebron. I am the district president for the St. Louis Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And today I'm hosting the MOAND social media show titled Cook Fast. And today we have two guests. We have a chef and a registered dietitian with us. And we are going to talk about food delivery systems during the pandemic. So I have Rob Connoley, chef and owner of Bulrush Restaurant, and then I have Jenny Duez. She is a registered dietitian at the St. Louis Area Food Bank, and she is the Partner Agency Services Coordinator. So first, Rob, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your restaurant?
Sure. So we opened Bulrush just over a year ago. It was April of last year. And the focus of the restaurant is to define what Ozark food or Ozark cuisine is, which seems kind of odd, but my family goes back to the St. Genevieve area since the 1840s. And for me, we never thought of it as Ozark food, but that was the gateway to the Ozarks back then. So when I wanted to open the restaurant, what we did is we started digging into like those old church cookbooks from all over the Ozarks. And I found that there were a lot of Jello salads and casseroles, and I wasn't quite as impressed as I thought I was going to be. But that's led to this huge research project where I actually have two history interns from St. Louis University who helped me out with this, in addition to the whole staff has to research. And what we're doing is looking at that origin story of Ozark foods. So the early 19th century, late 18th century, when the Osage people first came in contact with the European-based settlers who oftentimes brought the enslaved with them. And those three distinct cultures contributed different things to the foods and the celebrations of the area at the time. Because if we look at more modern times, it's just not as interesting. It gets diffused and it looks like Midwest cuisine or anything else. But that one moment in time is really special. And taking those three cultures and celebrating what they contributed. So anyway, that's what we do at the restaurant, but we present it in a very modern way. We're very much a 1920s restaurant, a 2020s restaurant. We do tasting menu and it trickles down to our bars, our cocktails follow the same model. But throughout all this history, we are a foraged food restaurant. We go out in the woods, we gather ingredients, bring them back, cook them, and get them ready for the bar. And then we are easily the most locally sourced restaurant in the state. We buy everything, absolutely everything from local farmers. We make everything from scratch, all of our own vinegars, yogurts, we tap our own maple trees, you name it, we get it local. And almost everything we do ourselves except for the produce that we buy. But again, from local farmers. So that's what Bulrush is. And right now it's a little quiet over there.
Okay, well, we'll find out if we can liven things up after this interview. Hopefully we bring the people in. Okay, so Jenny, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at the St. Louis Area Food Bank.
Yeah, so my name is Jenny Duez. I have been at the St. Louis Area Food Bank for almost 4 years now. My title at this time is Partner Agency Services Coordinator. I'm also a registered dietitian. So we have never really had a nutrition department. Until effective October 1st, I will be transitioning into a new role as nutrition program coordinator, which is super exciting. I've just been kind of working with any nutrition services and nudges and just working with our pantries over the past few years, but we've never really had anything in place as far as a department. So that's going to be very exciting to be able to do that full time. The past 4 years, I have worked with our Missouri agencies. So we have 14 counties in Missouri and 12 counties in Illinois. And so I cover our Missouri service territory just as far as compliance goes with our government programs like the senior boxes, TFAP, and just non-USDA food pantries. I am the point of contact for the food bank for them. So it's been I've kind of been all over it because we've restructured a lot at the food bank over the past few years. We, over the past year and a half, have formed a programs team. So prior to that, I was also doing food fairs and mobile markets and things like that. So kind of had my hands in everything, which has been exciting, but I'm excited to begin to use my nutrition background full time. So looking forward to seeing all that we can do moving forward.
It's gonna all come together.
Oh yeah.
All of it. All of it's
Oh yeah.
So Rob, you shared a lot with us in the beginning, and I heard words like foraging. So tell us about all the different techniques that you apply to from obtaining to processing your food products, and tell me more about the local owned produce and how you minimize waste. Like what barriers or what barriers have you had, and what have you implemented to overcome these challenges during the pandemic?
Yeah, so I come from the old Michael Pollan's school of thought when it comes to why we source locally. And so at my last restaurant, I lived in New Mexico at the time, and it was up in the mountains in the desert, and there just weren't that many farmers, and certainly not people growing things out of season, which is good, except for a restaurant, that's a problem. And so that led me to work with the Apache Nation down there. I had some friends who were Apache and also Lakota, and they started to mentor me on foraging because they lived off the land. And over the years, almost 10 years of doing that, I really learned the seasonality of eating and so of cooking. And coming back here, which again, I'm born and raised here, there's just so much. There's so much food out there that people don't even realize. And I think there's a stigma maybe to, what if I eat something that kills me? And my mentor back in New Mexico said, there's only a few things that'll kill you. If you learn those things, eat your way through the woods. It may make you sick, but it won't kill you. And so I'm not telling people to go out and do that. I'm just saying with mentoring, you can. And so like we go out 2 or 3 times a week, gather ingredients, bring them back into the kitchen, and either cook them immediately, or more likely, because things again are so seasonal, we find ways to preserve them, cure them, sometimes freeze them, but we try to do more than that. Right now, it's pawpaw season. We're like going right into the end of pawpaw season. And pawpaw season is exciting because it's a tropical fruit in Missouri.
Well, okay, wow. That's what I was thinking when you said that. I'm like, wait a minute. I went back to food science class.
If I gave you one of these fruits right now, you would think I bought it from the store and it had come from Florida or South America, wow. But it's here in Missouri. And it has the texture of like a very ripe mango or maybe a papaya. And most people say the flavor is kind of like a mango meets a banana. I don't get that. To me, it's more of a funky papaya. So it's citrusy and tropical. And it's everywhere in the woods right now. It has a very short window, though. There's about a 2-week window where they're ripe and then they're rotten. And you can find them because if you walk in the woods right now, you'll smell it. You'll smell that fermenting fruit. And my staff and I sometimes will see drunk deer, basically. The deer are eating them, but it's already fermenting. So it's got enough alcohol that affects their bodies and they wobble around a little bit. So that's out there. And we've got almost 200 pounds this year on 3 trips to the woods, no more than 1 hour each time. So it's really plentiful. The other thing that I like to work with is acorns. I do that because there's again a lot of stigma. Acorns are a traditional food of many of the indigenous people of North America. But when the Spanish came over, or all the other Europeans, but primarily the Spanish, acorns they were considered pig food. They were food for livestock. And so it was looked down upon to eat acorns. And so people just didn't eat acorns in North America. But look at how many acorns are out there. You know, you can't go to your car right now without stepping over 5 pounds of acorns. And so I love cooking with acorns because I can show people how amazing it is. And this is getting to your question of how we process it. So we'll get hundreds of pounds of acorns again. We do what's called the bur oak. Those are the ones that are really big. They're like I don't know, it's almost the size of an egg. They're the size of a small egg. And I do that because it's the most meat, right? Why would I do the little bitty ones when I can do a big one? And there's a process that gets that bitterness out. People say, oh, they're not safe to eat because they're bitter. No, they're perfectly safe to eat. You need to get the bitterness out. And then it's a protein. Not only that, to my nutritionist friends, it's a nut protein. So it has really good fats and really good calories in it. And so we take that, we get the shell off, we get the tannins out, that bitterness out, and then we crush it and freeze it for later. It's fun for us as a restaurant because we have tools and knowledge. We make acorn miso. We do an acorn starch that becomes a gelatin. There's a traditional Korean dish that does that. And then, of course, all the nut meal to make muffins and breads and all that. I love doing acorn tortillas, in New Mexico. So there's a lot out there. And there's a lot of people who are willing to mentor people who want that information. Trying to pull this all home here, it ties into the local farmers because the local farmers have a season. And right now I'm reminding every one of them, all that stuff that they're about to throw into the compost bin because it's coming out of season. All those tomatoes that aren't pretty anymore, they have the splits in them. Maybe they have worms. Maybe they're just ugly at this point. Like, I want those. All those pumpkins that are going to show up in 2 months when people are done with pumpkins, I want those because that's good food that shouldn't be wasted when there's so many people who can benefit from it. And it's just thinking a little differently, that if you throw food in the trash, ask yourself, could I have served less or could I have done something else with it? And so we, as a restaurant, we've averaged less than 5 gallons of food waste a week for the year we've been open. The hardest season was corn season because of all that corn husk. We do a lot with corn husk, but we only do so much with corn husk. And so when we see stuff in that bucket, in that compost bucket, I immediately say to my staff, you need to find something to do with this. We don't pull it out and reuse it. But on the next one, we find something. So we make a lot of vinegars, a lot of misos. We do what we call scrap spice. Anyone can do this. Take all those peels from your cucumbers and your zucchinis and whatever, throw them in the freezer until you have a gallon of them. And then throw them, when you've got your gallon, put them in the oven at a low temp, like 250, and dry them out. If you have a dehydrator, that's even better. Take that then and put it in a food processor or coffee grinder, turn it into a powder, add a little bit of salt, and you now have what we call zero waste salt. We use it to season so many things. And people are like, oh, that's such an amazing flavor. I'm like, yeah, it's the trash. I don't say that, but it is. I mean, most restaurants, they would throw that away. At home, you're going to throw that away. For me, if we've thrown it away, it's the most cardinal sin. If we compost it, we've lost. It's not a cardinal sin then because it's going to be used, but we've lost. It's when we don't let it get to that bin, to that compost, that we've succeeded. And we're always thinking, how can we use this? And it's not hard. None of the techniques we do are that hard.
Wow. Okay, so I heard like a lot of food rescue. I heard a lot about seasonality, local. So all those things are helping you with maybe maintaining a level of high food quality. So what about the service at your restaurant? How has that changed now?
Well, yeah, COVID's made it very different. So we would like to think that we have some of the best service in the city. We're a fine dining restaurant. We should. Not only that, all of our prices include tax and tips. So you've already tipped me before you've even walked in the building. So I've got to give you impeccable service. With COVID, we no longer feel safe having people in the building. We did it in June. It just, too many people are making poor choices that affect other people. And so now we're doing what's called park and dine. The idea is, imagine going to Sonic and getting a 5-course tasting menu of foraged food. And so people pull up, and people have really gotten creative with this now. People are bringing tables and tents and candles and all sorts of stuff. And then we bring each of the courses out. Each course has a QR code. The QR code takes you to a YouTube video that is me describing the course and telling the history and the stories behind it, because I can't do that anymore. I can't safely talk to you at length because it's going to make my mask no longer function. And also, we're down to 3 people on staff from 7. So I don't really have the time to be out at your car for 5 minutes. So when you talk about service, it's different. We make sure everyone's taken care of. We make sure you get your food promptly, that your dirty stuff is cleared promptly. And the service is now, to me, more, I don't want to call it entertainment, but this entertainment factor. We're giving you something that no one else does. If you go to a restaurant, you hear some ambient music, and every now and then someone comes up and just disturbs your conversation, says, is everything okay here? Yeah, of course it is. Otherwise I would have yelled at you. I don't know why people ask that. So for us, it's like, okay, the people are coming for a special night. It's a birthday, it's an anniversary. What can we do to give them the entertainment that they would have had before by looking at me working in the kitchen, because we're an open kitchen, and listening to the music? Well, we give them a Spotify list of what we're listening to. We do a live Zoom that we call Sights and Sounds of the Kitchen. They can watch me and hear me. I don't yell at staff, but hear me yelling at staff. I call out the orders and, hey, you need to refire that or whatever. And they can watch the videos whenever they want. I think that's a really great way of doing service right now, because I don't have to interact with you, but I need to constantly interact with you. But we can't do it in an unsafe way, or at least I don't think we should be.
Right. Wow, that's really innovative. Wow, that's a very interesting experience.
It's not for everyone. So in my career, I'm known for crazy ideas. I come up with them all the time. Most are never come to fruition. In all the years of crazy ideas, I've never had so many people feel the need to verbally tell me, oh, I'm not going to do that. Okay, well, don't do it. Why are you telling me that?
Yeah.
But we've got people. But I'll tell you, we sell out every weekend. We're only doing Friday and Saturday nights. It's only 9 cars. It's not a lot. But like I was watching just before we logged on here, and we picked up 3 reservations in the past hour. I think people are realizing it's something different. And people are tired of food coming in a box that's not quite as good. And celebrations happen. If I'm celebrating, there's a lot of restaurants I love in town that I don't want to go to for a celebration. I want to go to for sustenance or for convenience, or I like their food. But for a celebration, it needs to be something a little more.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. So get down to Bulrush for a new innovative experience. I'm ready to line up my car. But okay, so that was a lot. That was a lot of good information and really cool stuff. You've changed my mind about acorns. Now I'm gonna actually look at them instead of stepping on them. But okay, so Jenny, so what kind of innovative things are going on at food banks? How has the St. Louis Area Food Bank been responding to the coronavirus pandemic? What's going on there?
Well, it has been a crazy year. So we are doing all kinds of things. So when it hit in March, we have always been doing food fairs and mobile markets throughout our service territory. Food fairs are large mobile distributions that are meant to serve about 200 families in a 2-hour period. They're about 18 to 22 pallets of perishable product that come in bulk. It's a drive-through distribution, and you load up the vehicles and send everybody on their way. Mobile markets are a little bit smaller. They're about either a half mobile market, which is 4 to 6 pallets, or a full, which is 8 to 10. So what we did starting in March, because we started getting tons of calls, I will never forget working from home and just having like 20 voicemails a day of people in need of food because they weren't able to leave the house, seniors that were receiving their boxes, especially the vulnerable populations, were not leaving their house and not getting food. So we were swamped. And so we actually ended up bringing on 93 new disaster partners, is what we call them, disaster mobile markets. And so they're agencies that came on temporarily, they reached out to us wanting to some way help the community. So our programs team brought on a total since March to September of 93 new partners. Some of them have become permanent, some were just temporary in the early months, but I mean, all over the service territory of our 26 counties, we've been really spiking up with that, and people have been loving it. We broadcasted on our website. People can go on to the events page of our website and find a mobile market really in any county in our service territory any day of the week. So several of those, that's been our biggest kind of increase that we've done over the past few months. We just from March of 2020 to September of 2020, we have put out 15 million pounds of food. Whereas if you compare it to last March of 2019 to September of 2019, we put out 10 million pounds. So just in that, 6-month period, it's 5 million more pounds throughout this time period. So that just kind of shows how hard I feel like our team has worked. I feel like everybody, while most of us are working from home, it takes the entire food bank to make this happen, from development to fundraising to the warehouse to the drivers to the coordinators that are working directly with the agencies, the volunteer center. Like we had volunteers throughout our entire throughout this entire time. We kind of had to restructure that where like they were split into smaller groups, whereas before we had different employers coming in with like 20 to 30 people at a time. So our volunteer center manager kind of had to split up the shifts and do more, shorter periods with less people, but we made it happen. We still got all of our senior boxes out. As far as the senior box program that we do in Missouri, we distribute 8,290 boxes a month. And then in Illinois, we distribute close to 5,000. So it's about a total of 13,000 boxes that go out each month between both states. And all of those boxes are packaged in our volunteer center. So we could not feed those seniors without our volunteers. So we're grateful that we, had them throughout this time and continue to have a really good turnout with that. We've changed our procedures as far as there's a screening when you come in to volunteer, filling out like a COVID waiver, everyone wears a mask, all that kind of stuff. But it's been really great. With that, we doubled up our senior delivery boxes so that the seniors that were homebound would have 2 months worth of food instead of just the 1 month. So then they wouldn't have to come to their house as much, or if they didn't have a proxy and they couldn't get a delivery, we were trying to make that a little easier. So the state of Missouri and Illinois were both more lenient with things like that as we kind of adjusted to, I guess, what we call the new normal. So it's been kind of interesting to see the change throughout the past 6 months, though. I feel like that first March and April to May, the phone was just ringing off the hook, and then we started bringing on those mobile markets and new sites, and then it slowed down a little bit, when the stimulus checks went out, and then it kind of, it was just kind of been up and down, and it's been interesting hearing feedback from our partners and from our agencies as to what they're experiencing as far as their clientele. Another thing that we've been lucky enough to have is what we call the CFAP boxes. So it's Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. So we have that through October at this point. I think they end in October. And it's just fresh produce boxes. So we have those available online. We add them onto our mobile markets. So, these populations are getting tons and tons of produce that we're sending along with the mobile markets. So it's been really a great way to get out that nutritious product. We also have had amazing support from the National Guard. So we've been lucky enough to have the National Guard volunteer with us since, I believe, April or May. They started with us, and we have them through December. So they've been helping at our distributions. Our agencies can request National Guard assistance. They'll come out and help them with the mobile distributions. They'll come help us at the volunteer center. They will, they've done some deliveries when we were short a few truck drivers. So really, they have been phenomenal in helping us continue to feed more people and kind of hit territories that we might not otherwise hit. The purpose of the disaster mobile market sites is especially during the early stages of COVID. We had a lot of agencies temporarily closed down that people would go to multiple times a month or a week. And so we really try to fill those gaps in areas that might have an agency that's closed, or we might not have anything available there. So we're trying to kind of put mobile markets in those areas to fill that gap. So that's kind of been what's going on. We've definitely increased our communication as far as getting our agency feedback. It's really interesting to just, again, hear what they have been seeing on the front line. You know, we're the distribution center and then we get that food out. So it's really important to us to get that feedback from our agencies about what they see.
Wow. So like I heard a lot about volunteering and collaborating. So what ways could like maybe somebody like me or just the general public kind of help out and support the work that you all are doing?
Well, first and foremost, you can visit our website, which is www.stlfoodbank.org. We have all of our volunteer opportunities listed on our website under the Get Involved tab, and it goes from everything if you wanted to come to the food bank and do a volunteer shift in our volunteer center, pack senior boxes, sort through food drive items, whatever it may be. You can also get a tour of the facility. It's really cool to kind of see everything that goes down in the warehouse because it's really incredible back there how much food comes in and out each day. So people, that's usually an eye-opening experience. And then you can also volunteer. Sorry, my phone's going low. You can also volunteer at our mobile distributions. You can go out and help load vehicles. You can help out at food fairs. So have SNAP coordinators. So if people don't so much want to do the hard labor, you can help with our food stamp department and kind of help them assist people in signing up for food stamps, taking phone calls. We have all kinds of fun ways to get involved. So.
Well, that's awesome. So I hope everybody takes advantage of giving back to the St. Louis Area Food Bank. So Rob, as we wrap up in these last few minutes, is there anything that you would like to share, any social media, any type of messaging you'd like to get out there about Bulrush?
Sure. Again, celebrations happen. We'd love to see people, and they can find more about us at bulrushstl.com. Bulrush is just one L. But really, you know, support your local restaurants. It's a tough time, and we're losing more each day. And so, you know, if there's 2 or 3 restaurants that you really care about, get out there and visit them every week, every other week. I'm going to a new one just tomorrow. Juanita's Creole Soul. Don't know the guy, don't know anything. I used to live in New Orleans, and anyone who's crazy enough to open up a restaurant during a pandemic deserves my support. So I hope people will reach out and help their restaurants.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're getting all the good restaurant notes from Rob. Any final words, Jenny?
No, I mean, like I said, we can't do it without our volunteers and without our community support. So, you know, even just when you're cleaning out your pantries, it doesn't have to be this huge, you know, donation. Bringing up a few cans at a time is still gonna feed people. So anything that you can do to help in that way, we appreciate. And yeah, just that's all I got, really.
Well, we'll stop here. It was a pleasure to talk to you, Rob, and it was a pleasure to talk to you again and to, you know, reunite, Jenny.
I know, it's been a while.
But I want to thank you guys for joining us today on our MOAND show, Cook Fast, and I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.